August 6, 1945, 8:15 a.m. In one blinding flash, 80,000 people vanished. 3 days later, 40,000 more. The world had entered the atomic age. But what if it never happened? What if the most destructive force ever created was never created at all? Would we be living in paradise? Or would we have destroyed ourselves in an even worse way? Stay with me, because the answer will terrify you. Let's rewrite history. It's 1939. Einstein never writes the letter. Oppenheimer never leads the Manhattan Project. The atom remains unsplit. World War II still rages. But now, there's no ultimate weapon to end it. Germany and Japan fight on. The war that killed 70 million doesn't stop in 1945. Conventional warfare continues. Firebombing intensifies. Tokyo, Dresden, London. Cities burn night after night. Historians estimate the war could have dragged on until 1948, maybe 1950. Death toll? Over 100 million. Maybe more. But the real horror hasn't even started yet. 1950. The war finally ends. The United States and Soviet Union emerge as superpowers. But without the nuclear deterrent, there's nothing to keep them from direct conflict. In our world, mutually assured destruction kept the peace. In this world, there's no mutual destruction, just destruction. The Korean War escalates. China sends millions. America responds with full force. There's no nuclear threat to hold anyone back. By 1952, the conflict spreads. Soviet tanks roll into Western Europe. American bombers blacken Asian skies. And then, the unthinkable happens. Without the fear of atomic annihilation, conventional World War III erupts in 1956. NATO versus the Warsaw Pact. 500 million soldiers mobilized. Chemical weapons, banned in our timeline, are used freely. Mustard gas, sarin, VX nerve agents deployed on civilian populations. Historians in our world estimate a non-nuclear WW3 would have killed between 200 to 500 million people. The infrastructure of modern civilization shattered. Here's the twisted truth that keeps strategists awake at night. Nuclear weapons, the most horrific invention in human history, may have saved us. The doomsday clock, mutually assured destruction, the acronym that became our shield, MAD. Since 1945, major powers haven't fought directly. Not once. Proxy wars? Yes. Covert operations? Absolutely. But American and Soviet soldiers never met on the battlefield. Why? Because both sides knew, push the button, and everyone dies. But it gets stranger. Political scientist John Mueller called it the Long Peace, the most peaceful era for great powers in recorded history. From 1945 to today, deaths from great power wars, 0. Not thousands. Not hundreds. 0. Remove the nuclear threat? That peace vanishes. But there's another cost to our alternate timeline. The Manhattan Project didn't just create weapons. It unlocked the atom itself. Nuclear medicine, MRI machines, cancer treatments using radiation therapy. None of it exists without nuclear research. 18 million cancer diagnostic procedures every year depend on nuclear isotopes. Heart disease detection, bone scans, brain imaging. Without the atomic age, millions die from undiagnosed diseases. And we haven't even talked about energy. Nuclear power plants generate 10% of the world's electricity. In France, 70%. Carbon-free baseload power that runs 24/7. Without nuclear technology, the climate crisis we face today would be catastrophic. Coal and oil would dominate completely. Global temperatures, 2 to 3 degrees Celsius higher. Coastal cities underwater by 2000. The space age itself depended on nuclear technology. Radioisotope thermoelectric generators power deep space probes. Voyager, Curiosity, New Horizons. Without them, we are still earthbound. The universe remains unexplored. Here's where it gets truly disturbing. Human ingenuity doesn't stop. If we don't split the atom, we find other ways to kill. Biological weapons research accelerates. Without nuclear deterrence, there's no incentive to limit bioweapon development. In our timeline, The Biological Weapons Convention of 1972 banned bioweapons because nukes made them redundant. In the alternate timeline, weaponized smallpox, engineered plague, airborne Ebola, deployed in the wars of the 1950s and 60s. And then there's the weapon that almost was. Project Plowshare. In our world, it was a failed attempt to use nukes for peaceful purposes. In the alternate timeline, conventional explosives evolve into something worse. Fuel air bombs 1,000 times more powerful. Thermobaric weapons that create artificial firestorms. Scientists in Nazi Germany were already developing them. Without the nuclear option, these become the weapons of mass destruction. Imagine the firebombing of Dresden, but as a single bomb. That's the world we are living in without nuclear weapons. Not safer, different, maybe worse. Let's talk about lives saved. Since 1945, approximately 8 billion people have lived on Earth. In our timeline, roughly 100,000 have died from nuclear weapons, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. In the alternate timeline without nukes, conservative estimates suggest 300 to 800 million additional war deaths from 1945 to 2000. The paradox is almost unbearable to accept. The weapon we fear most may be the reason most of us are alive. Your grandparents might have died in World War III. Your parents might never have been born. You might not exist. But there's one more twist you need to hear. Because in 2025, we are not done with nuclear weapons. 9 nations possess them. 12,500 warheads exist. Enough to end civilization 50 times over. We live every day on the edge of annihilation. The alternate timeline avoided nuclear weapons, but we got them and survived. So far. Here's the mystery that haunts physicists and philosophers alike. The atom was always there. The knowledge was always possible. Could we have simply not discovered it? Could humanity have collectively chosen ignorance? Oppenheimer famously quoted the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I am become death, destroyer of worlds." But he also said something else. When you see something that is technically sweet, you go ahead and do it. Human nature. We explore. We discover. We create. And that's the final, terrifying truth.